tour. And please don't forget that this is just the beginning of 6 hours of great live radio here in Central Florida. You'll find nowhere else other than FM 105.5 and AM 660 The Answer, and for us also 1520 WBZW. But after us, you will have Mark Walters, who'll take you right up to 11 o'clock, from 8 to 11, with Armed American Radio. And, of course, I'm sure he'll have a lot more to talk about with the Roseburg shooting and the president going over there on Friday. And he toned down his rhetoric on Friday, thank goodness. But nonetheless, there were a number of people who protested his appearance there and let him know with street signs along his path, evidently to and from the memorial service or services. And okay, so welcome back to the show. As I said, we're going to have Sonny a little bit later on in the show. We'll have our Who Said That contest shortly as well. And don't forget our coming pizza challenge coming up on, it's going to be about November 16th, but I think that's a pretty firm date. We'll be able to let you know for sure tomorrow, but put that on your calendar and get ready for a lot of fun, because that is what it will be. Christopher Hart here along with General Lucas Paris, who has the Pariscope up and running. Tell him the channel again, please, sir.
That would be Adversaries TV on YouTube. Just type in Pariscope and you'll find us.
That's right. And you will also find tonight The Dumb and the Feckless. We had this series last what, TV season or whatever it was a while back.
Our fall season.
Yeah, well, we got a new, we're going to revive it for this fall season. We got some great new material. It's just come out with this great book, Unlikable, The Problem with Hillary by Ed Klein, who, of course, wrote the script for our last Dumb and Feckless series called The Blood Feud, the Clintons versus the Obamas. And we're going to go back to last season's script, which, once again, will kind of remind us of that period, if you will. And that will bring us to this season's new script, which we will be bringing you in following editions of the American Adversaries. So, Jeff, if you will. Welcome to The Dumb and the Feckless. The true story of the blood feud between the Clintons and the Obamas, as documented by Edward Klein in his #1 New York Times best-selling book. Tonight we read the prologue. "I'm not sure what Bill and I expected from the Obamas," declared Hillary Clinton, "but there was bad blood between us from the start." It was a sunny afternoon in May 2013, and Hillary was in a corner booth in the Le Jardin du Roi, a French bistro in Chappaqua, New York, where the Clintons have a home. She was dishing the dirt with a half-dozen women, all of them members of the Wellesley College class of 1969. 44 years ago, these women had chosen Hillary Diane Rodham to be the first student graduation speaker in Wellesley history, a speech that won her a write-up in Life magazine and her first brush with fame. Now, her classmates were still dreaming of the day she would fulfill her destiny and become the first woman president of the United States. Surrounded by this trusted band of sisters and liberated from the constraints of being a member of the Obama administration, Hillary was in her comfort zone. She felt free to speak her mind. "I still wonder if I should have joined Obama as his Secretary of State," she said, according to the recollection of one of the women at the table who spoke on the condition of anonymity. "History will be the judge of that. Long after I'm gone, historians who are now babies or who haven't even been born yet will debate it at my presidential library." The next race for the White House wouldn't begin in earnest for another year and a half, not until after the 2014 midterm elections, an eternity in politics. And Hillary insisted in public that she hadn't made up her mind yet whether she was going to run. However, her reference to my presidential library struck the women as a revealing slip of the tongue, and it set off a round of applause and clinked wine glasses among her classmates. They were drinking Chateau Huard, Castillon, Cortez de Bordeaux, and Croix de Besson Rosé. The wines had been carefully chosen by Roy, the owner of the restaurant, to complement the scallops in an orange vanilla sauce, pâté and sausage, mussels, and linguine with bacon and cream. Hillary's friends shared and tasted each other's dishes, while Roy waited on Hillary personally and prepared a special bacon dish for her after the former First Lady told him that she was trying to lose weight. A waiter stood nearby, refilling their wine glasses, and soon the room was filled with the sounds of mildly intoxicated female laughter. The women had been planning their reunion for quite some time, but they had been unable to set a date until now because of Hillary's relentless travel schedule as Secretary of State. They were in a festive mood and turned out for the occasion in their best jewelry and handbags. They basked in the reflected glory of their most famous classmate. For a woman who had recently suffered a concussion and a blood clot on her brain, Hillary looked amazingly well. Gone was the second set of bags under her eyes. Gone, too, were some of the extra pounds she had packed on during her million-mile sprint as Secretary of State. She had been working out, jogging, and watching what she ate, all of which explained why her pantsuit appeared to be a size too big. She was no longer the haggard, bloated, and burned-out figure who had resigned from office just 4 months before. The transformation was so striking that one of her classmates alluded to it when she spoke later in an interview for this book. It had looked to her as though Hillary had some work done. And that wasn't the only thing that confused this woman. She naturally sought to portray Hillary in the best possible light. She mentioned how Hillary remembered her classmates' birthdays and the names of their loved ones, how much fun Hillary was to be with, how she caught a joke instantly and laughed before anyone else. And yet, at the same time, and without meaning to, this source described a woman who could be hard to like, a woman who was as coarse as Lyndon Johnson and as paranoid as Richard Nixon, someone who often came across as a disingenuous, irascible woman who found it almost impossible to contain her feelings of resentment and anger. When her friends asked Hillary to tell them what she really thought, about the president she had served for 4 draining years, she lit into Obama with a passion that surprised them all. "Obama has turned into a joke," she said sharply. "The IRS targeting the Tea Party, the Justice Department seizure of AP phone records and James Rosen's emails, all these scandals. Obama's allowed his hatred for his enemies to screw him all the way Nixon did. During the time I worked on the Watergate case, I got into Nixon's head and understood why he was so paranoid and angry with his enemies. Bill and I learned from that and didn't allow ourselves to go crazy bashing people who had anti-Clinton dementia, destroying ourselves in the process." This last statement prompted a moment of awkward silence around the table. None of the women had the courage to challenge Hillary's claim that she never let her enemies get under her skin. For as long as her friends had known her, Hillary had been driven insane by her enemies. She kept an enemies list of those who had crossed the Clintons. She kept an enemies list of those who had crossed the Clintons. The roll call of ingrates and traitors, those are Hillary's words, included people who sold out Hillary and supported Barack Obama in 2008. Governor Bill Richardson of New Mexico, Senator Claire McCaskill of Missouri, Representative James Clyburn of South Carolina, David Axelrod, and worst of all, the late Ted Kennedy, whom the Clintons had once treated as an icon until he turned on them. Vanity Fair writer Todd Purdom made the list after he wrote a scathing profile of Bill Clinton, as did Ed Klein after he published a book titled The Truth About Hillary. "When we were in the White House, Bill was on top of every department," Hillary said. He might have been guilty of micromanaging, and yes, it's true, I helped him micromanage, and I'm still proud of that. She went on to explain why Bill was a natural leader and great executive, unlike Obama, who was, in her words, incompetent and feckless. Bill never respected the chain of command the way Obama did. If something was going on at the Internal Revenue Service or at the Justice Department that Bill didn't think was kosher, he would call somebody way down the chain and find out what was going on, and he didn't care who got offended. The thing with Obama is that he can't be bothered, and there is no hand on the tiller half the time. That's the story of the Obama presidency. No hand on the fracking tiller. Only she didn't say fracking, she said that other word. She took another sip of wine, thought for a moment, and then continued. And you can't trust that mother fracker. Once again, she used the other word. Obama has treated Bill and me incredibly shabbily, and we're angry. We tried to strike a deal with him. We promised to support him when he ran for re-election, and in return, he'd support me in 2016. He agreed to the arrangement, then he reneged on the deal. His word isn't worth shucks. Only she didn't use shucks. She used the other word. The bad blood between us is just too much to overcome. Over dessert of fruit and cheese, someone steered the conversation to the role Bill Clinton would play in Hillary's presidential campaign. Bill's been gaining weight on his doctor's recommendation, and he looks better than he has in years, one of the women recalled Hillary saying. He's dead set and determined to wrest the Hollywood people away from Obama. He wishes he had done that years ago during the 2008 Democratic Party fight. But now he's back in the fight, and that makes him strong. Hillary rolled her eyes, threw back her head, and cackled with her signature laughter as she went on to describe some of Bill's recent antics. He would soon celebrate his 67th birthday, and he was having another of his middle-class crises. When he visited Los Angeles, he rented Corvettes and Ferraris and drove around Hollywood in a new fedora, which she thought looked very snappy on him. I wonder who he picked up. The previous week, Bill had been on one of his magical mystery tours, she said. He started off in Hollywood with Charlize Theron at an event for GLAAD, the gay and lesbian advocacy group. Then he went to Peru with Scarlett Johansson, jetted off to Madrid to spend a few days with Juan Carlos, the Playboy King of Spain, went next to London to meet Elton John and his husband, David Furnish, then was off to Vienna for an AIDS benefit with his new best friend, Ava Longoria, and Carmen Electra. The guy is unstoppable, Hillary said. The guy's got a hell of a lot of life left in him. I've told him that when we're back in the White House, he'll have to behave. He laughed hysterically. We are at the point when we can joke about it. You have to love him. I do. But then the expression on her face turned suddenly somber, as if she had thought of something else, and she became more serious. For the past 4 years, she said, Bill has been largely out of my life. He was in Little Rock, or New York, or traveling, and I was in D.C. or traveling around the world. We talked every day on the phone, but didn't spend a lot of time together, and we've been getting along great. Now, we're going to be together on the campaign trail, and it's going to be complicated. Plus, there is the dynamic that when I run for president, I'm going to be the boss, and I'm not sure Bill will be able to handle that. He says he'll be my advisor and loving husband, but I'm afraid that if I'm elected, he'll think he's president again, and I'm first lady. If he starts that shucks, only she didn't say shucks, she said that other word.
I'm getting that.
If he starts that shucks, I'll have his ass thrown out of the White House. When the dessert dishes and coffee cups were cleared from the table, Hillary said that she would like to get some fresh air. They left the restaurant and started walking up King Street in the direction of her home. Secret Service agents followed in 2 black SUVs, and a state police car trailed behind, a light flashing on its roof. With Hillary, a casual late afternoon stroll in the suburbs turned into a royal procession. As they trudged up the winding hill, one of the women said she had a question that she had been reluctant to ask until now. What about Benghazi, she asked. What about you and Benghazi? I wish I hadn't flailed around at that Senate committee hearing on Benghazi, she said. What difference does it make, Hillary replied. But I said it, and Bill was very disappointed in my performance. In fact, he was shattered. But we don't fight anymore. We've gotten past that years ago. We accept each other as we are and chase our collective dream. All that shucks, only she didn't say shucks, she said that other word. All that shucks of throwing things at him and yelling is in the distant past. As for Benghazi, she continued, it was going to fade from memory. It would have no impact on her election prospects. The Clinton brand, as she called it, could overcome Benghazi just as it could overcome the floundering of the Obama administration and the growing unpopularity of the Democrats. The Clinton brand stood on its own. We were the leaders of the peace and prosperity for 8 years when we were in the White House. And when I run, Bill will make speeches for me that'll make speeches he's made for Obama seem like those in a junior high school debate. I'll run for president on that record, not on Obama's record, and we'll win back the White House. You just wait and see. The Dumb and the Feckless. Brought to you by Jerry's Mercedes-Benz Service, the dealership alternative, jerrysmb.com. We'll be right back after this short break.